So, hello all, this is Navdeep here. This is my lecture on medieval India history, and the topic which I will be pursuing today is foreign invasions between 1000 CE to 1200 CE. So, what we will be studying in this is the three main invasions that took place between this time frame, which is of Qasim, Ghazni, and Ghori, in this chronological order. And in my second half of the lecture, I will be completing these Rajput kingdoms. That means of this Rajput kingdoms of Kashmir, Ganga, Sena, Hosla, and Kakatiya. So, as I told you, the chronology is very essential to study these foreign invasions. First, you have to study the Qasim, then Ghazni, then Ghori. So, now coming back, first we need to realize why they needed to invade India. Why was invasion of India necessary? So this marked place here, this one, this is Saudi Arabia, where the Islam was born. Now this is India here. Okay. So India had been trading through this path only for a quite few time. Okay. So that this region where the Islam birth took place had a significant impact on the trade route of the India. So whether we say believe it or not, but they had a more conventional or more elaborative view of India's wealth than we have. Okay, so after the death of Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam, what happened that this was the area to which Islam flourished under Prophet Muhammad. But we know that after the death of Prophet Muhammad, a war of successor war broke down, which led to the split of Islam into Sunnis and Shias. But Sunnis had their successor as Khalifa. Okay. So, first four Khalifas, who were the most important, spread the Islam through annexation to this part, through this part, up to this part. So, if you note here that even the Baluchistan, modern day Baluchistan, was occupied by the or annexed by the Khalifas, and Islam was spread to this part. Later, after the first four Khalifas, after the tenure of the first four Khalifas, it was the Umayyad Khalifas who took over the succession and they occupied this much area. So the Islam now spread to the following these areas. Okay. So we will study about this, about why this annexation was important and all things. Now, first one, why was once they reached here till Baluchistan, so why they needed Sindh to be annexed? Okay. So the primary cause for the succession of Sindh was the spread of Islam. As it was a religious zeal, as they said, it has been linked with jihad. Okay, as it has been linked with the jihad. So, as I told you that the expansion, as the Islam spreads, it was only through the expansion. Second thing was that along with the spread of Islam, they needed a territorial expansion. Okay, so once they reached the Makran coast in Balochistan, where they had a gold deposit, as we know, they wanted to enter the Indian territories. They want to attend more and more territories. So, lure of wealth and Sindh, if you see here, Makran coast, as even in the time of the Indus Valley civilization, this has been a place of great immense wealth. We know that Makran coast gold was found. Okay, so Sindh was a transition force at Makran coast, but we know that these Khalifas had been in contact or had been trading with Sri Lanka for a long time. Okay, so this was Arabian Sea. At that time, I can say during the Caliphate, this Sindh was ruled by the Dahir, King Dahir. Okay, Hindu King Dahir. That's a separate story that how Dahir helped the successors of Prophet Muhammad or the family members. So that's a separate story. We will not go into that. But this Sindh was ruled by the Dahir, and there was Arabian Sea. So ships were going from here to these regions. Okay, these regions, these Arabian or Islamic, we can say Caliphate regions. But there were pirates also. So one of the ships which had Arab merchandises was captured by the these pirates. So what happened is this Umayyad king, he ordered, at that time the Umayyad dynasty's king was Hajjaj. Hajjaj ordered Dahir that these ships should be released for the release of these captured ships. But Dahir said they are not in control. And this upsetted the Hajjaj. So Hajjaj, whom he sends the Qasim to take the revenge and to capture this land. So what was India? What was the condition of India, northern India especially? We will see that in northern India it was ruled by the Rajput states. So there was, after the breakup of the Pratri Gujara Empire, there was North India was captured, ruled by various Rajput states. In Delhi we had the Tomars, Ajmer had the Chauhans, the Parmars of the Malwa, the Chandela of Bundelkhand, and the Jabalpur was by Kachuriyas, like Kanjol was Ghadawalas, and the Senas of Bengal. So to some extent, we can see that the majority of the North Indians, India, as we see, was ruled by the Rajput kingdoms. Now, as I told you, who ordered Muhammad bin Qasim was Al Hajjaj, who was the governor of Iraq. It was as a first as a sign of conquest. So Muhammad bin Qasim sent to the conquer Sindh. Okay, in 1711 he conquered the Dabal. Okay, Sindh was, as I told you, ruled by the Dahir, who marched to Brahmanabad, and there the two armies met, both Muhammad bin Qasim and Dahir. And what took place? Battle of Aror. Dahir, the king Dahir was captured and killed there. And once he captured the Sindh, once the Muhammad bin Qasim captured the Sindh, he wanted to spread the Islam there. But since the majority was so strong, he can't do it in his tenure. So what he used to say, he called the people of Sindh as Zimmis. What he used to call them? As Zimmi. Zimmis means the non-Muslims who are under the rule of Khalifa. Okay, so they have to pay the taxes, that extra taxes, or rather they have to convert. But he didn't pressurize them so much. Under Muhammad Qasim, the son of Dahir, Jai Singh, was accepted as the ruler. Okay, so it was under the Muhammad bin Qasim that his son, the son of Dahir, Jai Singh, was accepted as the ruler, and later he attacked the Multan. So this was in 712. So later, what happened in 714 C was that the Hajjaj, the governor of Iraq, he died, and the Khalifa at that time, Umayyad, he too died. His place was taken by Walid. Now, what happened that Qasim was supposed to send some of the treasures back to the Khalifa, but he didn't. He failed to do that. Thus, he was recalled back, and there he was killed. Okay, for treason. What happened until that time? As the time that the Qasim traveled back to the Khalifa, the Jai Singh, he reoccupied Brahmanabad. Okay. Now, at the place of Hajjaj, the new governor that was appointed was Junaid. Junaid was the one who can be fundamentally regarded as a person who converted the people of Sindh. Majority of the Sindh population was converted by him to Islam. So his school of thought was Nafi. So this can be asked directly as a question, that Hanafi school of thought belonged to which of the kings, or is associated with kings? So it was Junaid, the new governor of Iraq, who succeeded Hajaji. So he imposed a jizya in this region. So what he did in the Sindh region, this is very much Sindh region, he imposes the jizya. So now the people had three choices. Either they had to pay the huge amount of jizya, or they can convert to Islam, or they can die. So majority choose the second one because it's saying that Jaan hai to Jahan hai. Now what happened here? Now this Junaid tried to enter the India. So Junaid did his best to enter the India. But these Gujar Pariharas, these kings here, this one, they stopped. Okay, so these king stopped him, and who was the king? Nagavatta. Okay, so after that Umayyads who came? Abbasids. Abbasids can also be associated with the slave dynasty. So these Abbasids who took over Khalifa, these can be associated with slave dynasty. With whom? With mostly Iltutmish. Okay, so under them they lost the control over the Sindh. Okay, so they lost the control over the Sindh. Now what happened? Once they lost the control over the Sindh, this Sindh region, this total Sindh region was ruled by two sets of Arab. First was Mansura here. This Mansura here, it was ruled by one set of the Arabs, and second came the Multan. It was ruled by the second set of the people. It was later the Gori when he came, the Ghazni that he came, that he conquered the both. So this is the same as I said. Hajjaj, one said powerful army. Muhammad bin Qasim. Muhammad bin Qasim was Hajjaj's both nephew and son-in-law. Okay. So it was mainly what I told you to punish those sea pirates who had captured the present set of the King Ceylon to King of Sri Lanka to Hazars. As I told you about that. But the second most thing that you must remember, the main reason was the capture of land and spread of Islam. Capture of land and spread of Islam. Okay. So this was the map of India when this Qasim attacked India. This was ruled by Dahir. We had the Hindu Shahi kingdom here. Then Kashmir was ruled by Karkota. Then we have Kanauj here, Pala, Vijayapurihala, Rashtrakutas, and Cholas in the south. Now, what happened here? Once the Qasim attacked, the system here a bit disturbed, and a power struggle began for Kanauj here. Okay, that power struggle was by that Gujarat Pariharas, after defeating and after stopping the Junaid, they too wanted to occupy their territory to Kanauj. Palas here too wanted to capture the Kanauj. Okay, and Rashtrakutas too wanted to capture the Kanauj. So a tri-junction was here. A tri-party struggle started here in the Kanauj. This was after the attack of Qasim. Okay, so this one is the tri-party struggle that is discussed about. So Muhammad bin Qasim is also known as Iqab. Iqab means honorific affair. Okay, as I said, he was the Arab commander of Umayyad Caliphate. Okay, and who was during his Hizbah Caliph Al Wahid I. Okay, and Dahir was the last Maharaj of a Brahmin dynasty, and he was the first Muslim to have successfully invaded Sindh. Okay, so the Arabs invited to invade India before also, but they were defeated by North Indian king Nagabata of the Gujarat dynasty and by the South Indian Emperor Vikramaditya II of the Chalukya dynasty. That was in the later stage. After the failure of the further expeditions, the Arab considered that Abbasids, and after the Umayyad Khalifa who came, Abbasids, as I told you. So they gave up the project of conquering any part of India. Okay. So what was the condition that favored the Qasim? First, he had superior military equipment, siege engines and Mongol bow. Okay, these two were what the military advancements over the Indian king. His troops were more disciplined and there was a righteous leadership. The concept of jihad was a moral boost, as I said, for the Islam was the motto. Okay, the religious widespread belief in the prophecy of Muslim success, and they wanted the Muslim success in all over that region. Okay, the laboring under disabilities of the Lohana Jats. Though the some of the this Dahir king was disabled, some of his power was already reduced by the revolts of these Lohana Jats, and there were certain defections from Dahir and Dahir's chiefs and nobles. So the battle that was fought between Muhammad bin Qasim and Daher Beta Daher was defeated and captured. Muhammad bin Qasim called Multan a city of gold. Qasim divided this Sindh into a number of iktas or districts. Okay, so the concept of iktas can be originated here. So we can see the Iqtadari system that was later seen in the Delhi Sultanate as is based in this Muhammad bin Qasim. Okay, so as I told you earlier also that he adopted a policy of non-interference with the Indian Hindu population, majority of Hindu population. Though the kingdom was ruled by the Khalifa, but at the local level, Hindus were free to rule among as per their rule. Jizya was imposed on the non-Muslims. This happened after once the Junaid assumed the governorship. Okay, okay. So as I told you that he was later killed for traffic. So there is said that there was a clash between Bappa Rawal and the Muhammad bin Qasim. So though it is a fewer known concept in the history, but let's know that a Hindu Bappa Rawal was a Hindu Rajput king. Okay, so it is said that he defeated Muhammad bin Qasim's successor Junaid ibn Mari. Okay, he belonged to Guli Lauд dynasty, and later he became the most powerful king in the Mewar. So it is also said that this Rawalpindi, Bappa Rawal, this Rawalpindi town of Pakistan, the military where the military headquarters of Pakistan is situated, is named after Bappa Rawal. Okay, so Rawalpindi is named after. Okay, so this was the condition of Muhammad bin Qasim's attack. After Muhammad bin Qasim's attack, what we have till first earlier they had this, then he came, entered Punjab up to Multan, as I said, and there was two. There were actually two set of kingdoms, Arab kingdoms set. One was Mansura and one was Multan. Mansura was here. Okay. Though later this Brahmanabad was reconquered. Okay. Now the second invasion that took place was by Mahmud Ghaznavi. So second invasion took place in around 1000 century. Okay, 1000 CE. So what was the condition at that time? Arabs already ruling the Mansura and the Multan region, though the upper part was ruled again by the Hindu Shahi rulers. Kashmir was ruled by the Karakotas, the Utpal Lohar was the king, Tomars, Delhi and Chauhans emerged here as Solanki, Parmars and so they all emerged here. But what happened is Muhammad Ghazni. Okay, so Muhammad Ghazni invaded first time in 1000 AD. Okay, so it is said that only some frontier, this northwest frontier forts were captured by him. But later he attacked 1000 in 1001 AD again. And at that time, Hindu Shahi king Jaipala gave him a battle near Peshawar but was defeated and captured with many of his relations. So he came till Peshawar. Okay. Later, even it is said that he advanced till Vaihand. He later went to Vaihand, and there he got a large amount of war booty, but he returned back. He had no sense of capturing and staying there. ठीक है? So the king that he captured in the war in Peshawar, Jaipala, he released him after getting 25 elephants and 2,50,000 dinars. Okay, it is said that the Jaipala couldn't tolerate this defeat and he burned himself. After Jaipala was succeeded by his son Anand Pala. Okay, now After 2 years, 1004 AD, Ghazni again attacks. Now he attacked the Behra. It was ruled by Bajire. Bajire was the king of Behra. Okay, though he opposed Mahmud, but he was later defeated and he was later killed. Now, as I told you, Arabs had two kingdoms. One was the Multan and the second one was the Mansura. What did Ghazni now did? Ghazni, this was ruled at that time by Shia king. Ghazni now attacked the Multan, okay, and he captured it. So, as I told you that Ghazni conquered both Mansura, that is Peshawar, and the Multan. What happened at Peshawar? Its ruler was Dod. He agreed to be a patronage of Ghazni and to pay him a tribute. This Multan was left for Nawaz Shah. Now, who is this Nawaz Shah? He was the grandson of Jaipala, who had who has accepted the Islam as their governors. But what happened when the Ghazni went back to fight with Seljuk Turks who were threatening his territories in the north? They both revolted against the Ghazni. Both Dod and Nawaz Shah revolted against him, and when he came back, he defeated both and thus conquered both the territories. Okay. He also in 1014 Ghazni also had an unsuccessful expedition to Kashmir. Though in 1018 he attacked Mathura, okay, and he killed the king of Mathura called Chandrabala of Pala dynasty. Okay, so these were the certain of his political ambitions that came here. But what we can say is that overall the Indian kingdoms of Nagarkot, Thanesar, Kanauj and Gwalior, these all were conquered by the Ghazni. But he left it since he had no ambition to stay in India. He just was a plunderer. He came, plundered, take the gold back, fulfilled his conquest in this region, Ghazni. He left it in the hands of Hindu, Jain, Buddhist, and King as their vassal states. That means they had to pay certain amount to the Ghazni. He attacked large number of temple gods, and it is said that from these the treasury that he looted here in the India, he built a beautiful mosque and a large library in his own hometown. So he had two main poets, famous Persian poets as his patrons in his court. One was Firdausi and second was Al-Bruni. Firdausi has written Shahnama. So the Shahnama was written by Firdausi. Okay. So this was the final condition of the territories of Ghazni. So this was. So as you can see, after reaching the Peshawar, he has entered till Lahore. Now he is entering the mainland India of today. Okay. So the third one is Muhammad Ghori. This was the third invasion. Okay. So this first invasion took place in 1175. So this is the conditions against of Indian kings at that time. Hindu Shahi again ruling. As I said, Kashmir unsuccessful, though unsuccessful event, but he had toppled the rulers. Chauhans, Chandela, Parmars, and Gadawala, Sena and Ganga. Okay. So the full name of Muhammad Ghori was Shibab ad-Din. What was it? Shahabuddin. He first attacked the Multan, which he conquered easily. Next, he annexed Uch and Lower Sindh, Uch and Lower Sindh territories. Okay. Now it is said that the next target, if you see, after the Sindh, it was Gujarat. So after capturing the Sindh, he came to Gujarat. So once he came to Gujarat, he fought against Mool Raja too. Where if they both fought, they both army met on 1178 near Mount Abu, and he defeated him. So Mool Raja defeated Muhammad Ghori. And this was the first time that Muhammad Ghori was defeated in India. After that, he said, no, now I don't. So he was defeated here by Mool Raja here while trying to enter Gujarat. So this was the first defeat. Now, what did he change his path? He said, no, I will not enter India from Gujarat. I will enter now through Punjab. As I told you, if you remember, the Ghazni has already reached till Punjab. So Muhammad conquered Peshawar in 1179. He attacked. Later, he attacked Lahore and captured it. And later, from a Ghaznavid ruler, he records Sialkot. Okay. Now he imprisoned Khusro Shah by treachery and occupied the entire territories of Punjab. Khusro was murdered later in 1192. So what happened now? The till Punjab he has captured. So as I told you, he can't enter. He failed from here. He was defeated from Moor Raja. Now he entered from the Punjab area. Okay. So okay. Now he entered through Punjab area here. Now he enters through. Okay. So directly he enters from here. It topples the government here. The ripples can be seen. It creates a buffer zone between these two regions, and this is a safe side. Okay. So the king of Punjab, at that time, Ghaznavid was Khusro. He was imprisoned. After he captured Punjab, the boundaries kingdoms of Muhammad and Prithviraj III, the Chauhana ruler of Delhi and Ajmer, touched each other. As I told, this was the diagram, as I said here. Once he entered through Punjab, I said they created a buffer zone, but the boundaries touched. So when the boundaries are, there is a friction. Okay. So Muhammad attacked and captured Bathinda. It was planning to come when he received the news that advancement of Prithviraj against him with a view to recapture Bathinda. Muhammad too proceeded to face Prithviraj. So what happened? First battle of Tarain. In this, Bathinda was captured. Okay. And later he progressed to capture the other kingdoms of the Prithviraj. But Muhammad of Ghori was defeated by Prithviraj in the first battle of Tarain, and Prithviraj recovered the Bathinda. Now he again went back, created a bigger army, and then came for the second battle of Tarain. Tarain is near Haryana. In the second battle of Tarain, the joint forces of Rajput rulers, okay, Jatpur and the Prithviraj were defeated by Muhammad of Ghori. Prithviraj was held in prison and later put to death. The Turkish rule begins from here. Okay. Once the Prithviraj was defeated, so this was the end of the Indian rule and start of the Turkish rule. Qutbuddin Aibak was appointed as a commander by Muhammad of Ghori. As this is interesting story that Ghori had no successor, no son. So, but he loved his slave so much that he credited him as his successor. So Qutbuddin Aibak was appointed as his successor. Okay, so this is here what happened. Now, after the Muhammad Ghori appointed Qutbuddin Aibak as his successor, there were many Rajput mutinies. Once Prithviraj was defeated between 1193 and 1198, it was Qutbuddin Aibak who defeated them, brought more and more Rajput kingdoms under him, and it was Muhammad Ghori actually who made Delhi as its capital. So it was that Delhi as a capital was first started by Muhammad Ghori. Okay, so they now after capturing the Delhi region, okay, this one. Now he wanted to enter inside up to Kannauj. Now the Kannauj was ruled by Jayachandra. Ghori defeated him. Muhammad bin Bakhtiar Khilji, who was one of the commander of Muhammad Ghori, like Qutbuddin Aibak, he destroyed Vikramasala and Nalanda universities and captured Bengal and Bihar. Ghori died 1206. Okay, he placed his slaves at various positions. So this was the Ghori Empire. First, Qasim till here. Second, Ghazni came, touched the main Indian subcontinent, and it was the Ghori who conquered most of the North Indians. Okay, so These are his slaves. The Ghor, at the place Ghor, Ghiat al Mahmud, he was left as Emir of Ghor by Mahmud Ghori. Ghazni, Taj ad-Din Yilz at Ghazni, this is place in Afghanistan. Taj ad-Din Yilz, who was one of the slaves, was kept as Emir of Ghazni. Delhi was kept to Kutubuddin Aibak. Bengal was kept to Muhammad bin Bakhtiar Khilji, the one who destroyed the Nalanda, as I said, and Multan was kept for Nasiruddin Bacha. So after this, we have to study about this start of the Delhi Sultanate, and we need to complete some of the Rajput kingdoms, which we'll do in the next class. So for now, thank you for watching my